The continuum sealed the vault at those 400 hours station time, and the first thing it said was that one of us would not complete the program. It didn't specify which one. It didn't need to. 6 heads turned toward me in the dark, the amber emergency lighting catching the reflective membranes of the Velthian pair, the biophosphorescent streaks along the Keithian's jaw, the slow deliberate rotation of the Sorvathi's compound eyes. I was the only one in the room who didn't glow, didn't shimmer, didn't have a third eyelid closing against the pressurized air. I was also the only one holding a notebook. Not a datapad, a notebook. 48 pages of compressed fiber I'd carried in every crisis deployment, 19 years. Because electronics fail and paper doesn't, and because there is no substitute for the act of writing a thing down with your hand, pen. When you are trying to understand whether a system is broken or merely confused about what it was built to do. The Velthian on my left, assessor candidate Sorvath Khan, I'd learned his name from the intake manifest, looked at the notebook the way a surgeon looks at a patient who has arrived to their pre-op appointment carrying a bag of rocks. He didn't say anything. None of them did. The continuum was still speaking. It informed us that the Vathoran Continuity Vault had been in continuous operation for 342 years. That in that time it had processed 619 cohorts of essential personal candidates, representing 41 galactic civilizations. That its survival protocol library contained 912 discrete scenarios, each derived from documented post-catastrophic reconstruction events, each calibrated to the upper physiological and cognitive tolerance bands of the species it was designed to assess. That completion rates across all cohorts averaged 61%. It did not tell us what happened to the 39%. I wrote that down. Then I wrote. Framing assumption. The 39% are failures. Question: failures at what? Surviving the protocol or surviving the continuum's definition of survival? First protocol began 8 minutes later. It was a resource allocation scenario. The vault's internal atmosphere was altered. Oxygen partial pressure dropped to 70% nominal. Temperature fell 11 degrees. And the continuum presented us with a sealed supply manifest and a reconstruction timeline spanning 42 days. We were to allocate resources across 7 functional categories: shelter, nutrition, medical, communications, power, water reclamation, and what the continuum's documentation called social cohesion maintenance. We had 90 minutes. The 6 alien candidates went to work immediately. Sorvath Khan coordinated. His species practiced a form of distributed consciousness problem solving that let them run parallel work streams without losing coherence, and within 20 minutes the other 5 had fallen into a rhythm around him. They were good, genuinely good. I watched the way Khan held the whole allocation matrix in his head, without writing a single thing down. The way the Kethian candidate, assessor candidate Veth Sorrel, a biochemist by training, pre-calculated caloric degradation curves in her head, faster than I could have done it on paper. They had practiced this. Not this scenario specifically, but the shape of it. The triage logic, the priority stack, the way you hold 42 variables in the air simultaneously and don't let any of them drop. I let them run it. I spent the 90 minutes reading the scenario documentation the continuum had provided. All of it. Not the allocation tables, the methodology notes at the back, the assumptions section, the thing that nobody reads because it doesn't change your score. The continuum's resource allocation framework was built on a core premise that the cohort constituted the full reconstruction workforce. Meaning, all resource calculations assumed the people in the vault were both the planners and the labor pool. There was no scenario variant for external survivor integration, no protocol pathway for incorporating a population of non-vault survivors who might exist outside the sealed environment. I wrote, call 1 gap, closed system assumption. All 912 scenarios likely share this, verify. The cohort's allocation scored 94%. Mine scored 71, because I had spent 40 minutes on the methodology notes and 20 on the actual allocation. Sorvath Khan looked at my score and said nothing. The expression his face made was the galactic equivalent of confirming what he already knew. I wrote his reaction down too. By Protocol 6, A communications blackout scenario requiring the cohort to establish a functional relay network using only salvaged components. I had verified my hypothesis. All 912 of the continuum scenarios shared the closed system assumption. Every single one was built on the premise that the vault's survivors were a self-contained unit, that reconstruction happened from within, that the world outside the sealed environment was a resource field to be assessed and exploited, never a population to be integrated. The continuum had been designed by the Vatheran Collegiate's founding council 342 years ago, at a moment in galactic history when the dominant post-catastrophe model was fortress reconstruction, a surviving elite rebuilding civilization downward toward the general population, rather than outward with it. The model had been superseded 160 years ago by cooperative reconstruction theory, which showed consistently better long-term outcomes across 30 documented post-catastrophic events. The Continuum's protocol library had never been updated. It was not a survival assessment engine. It was a museum exhibit that didn't know it was a museum exhibit. I filled 11 pages. Meanwhile, I passed enough protocols to stay in the program. Not by competing with the alien candidates. I had stopped trying to do that by Protocol 2. I understood that in a straight competence race, I would consistently finish last. I passed by doing what I had done for 19 years in Earth's Catastrophic Systems Division. I found the minimum viable path through each scenario and spent the remaining time on the documentation. A relay network cobbled from 3 component types that the Continuum's own gap in the scenario materials had failed to account for. A medical treat sequence that borrowed from field protocols the Continuum had no category for, because Earth didn't send its medical methodology to the Collegiate's Curriculum Committee. Each time, I scored in the low 70s. Each time, the cohort scored in the 90s. Each time, Sorvith Khan did not say anything to me directly. On the 14th day, during the rest cycle, Veth Sorrel sat down beside me in the recovery chamber while I was writing. "You are not trying to win," she said. Her Kethian was precise, translator rendering it in flat standard. "You are studying the walls. I'm studying the room," I said. "There's a difference." She looked at the notebook. "What have you found?" I showed her 3 pages. She read them in the time it took me to pour water from the dispenser and sit back down. Her bioluminescent jaw streaks, which I had learned tracked emotional processing in her species, moved through 2 colors I hadn't seen before. "The Collegiate knows this?" she said. "Someone does," I said. "Or no one does." "That's the gap analysis question." She was quiet for a moment. "The final protocol," she said. "Do you know what it is?" I didn't. The Continuum didn't announce final protocols in advance, no. Cohort 6 3 years ago, she said. Continuum presented a scenario it classified as unresolvable, an extinction class event with a recovery window of 11 days and a reconstruction workforce, meaning us, insufficient by a factor of 40 to meet the minimum viable threshold. 3 members of that cohort attempted solutions. None were accepted. 2 members attempted to negotiate with the Continuum directly. She paused. Continuum does not negotiate. What happened to them? The vault opened, she said. The program terminated. The Collegiate classified the cohort as failed. I wrote that down. Then I wrote, "Final protocol. The Continuum presents an unwinnable scenario to test what the cohort does when the math doesn't close. Expected response. Tempt A solution. Actual test. Unknown. Possibly the wrong question." The final protocol began on the 22nd day. The Continuum presented it without preamble. Atmosphere nominal. Lighting full. All systems running. And then a scenario document that appeared simultaneously on every display surface in the vault. An extinction class event. Pathogen cascade. Across 41 inhabited systems. Simultaneous. With a confirmed survival population of approximately 12 million distributed. Across 619 scattered settlements, none of which had the infrastructure for self-sufficient reconstruction. Recovery window. 11 days before cascading secondary failures made reconstruction mathematically impossible. Reconstruction workforce available. 7 candidates in a sealed vault. The cohort went to work. Immediately, instinctively, the way they had gone to work on every prior protocol. Sorvith Khan began running allocation matrices. Veth Sorrel pulled up medical frameworks. For others, divided the 619 settlements into assessment zones. I opened my notebook to page 31 and began writing the document I had been drafting in pieces since Protocol 1. It took me 4 hours. The cohort worked for 6 before Sorvath Khan announced, with controlled precision, that the numbers did not close, that there was no allocation of the vault's resources and personnel that produced a reconstruction outcome within the 11-day window. The scenario was, by any internal framework the continuum had provided, unresolvable. The vault was silent. I finished the last paragraph, read it back, corrected 2 lines, and walked to the primary submission terminal. What I submitted was not a survival solution. It was a structural audit, 41 pages of compressed analysis documenting the 912 gaps in the continuum's protocol library, foundational closed system assumption that made the final scenario unwinnable by design, the 160 years of cooperative reconstruction theory the vault had never incorporated, and a framework for integrating the 619 external settlements not as a resource field to be managed but as a reconstruction force to be organized. The math under cooperative reconstruction theory closed with 31 hours to spare. The document ended with a standard gap analysis filing notation. I had used the same notation format for 19 years. I saw no reason to change it now. The continuum processed the submission for 11 minutes. I had submitted solutions in under 2 minutes on every prior protocol. Sorvath Khan watched the processing indicator with an expression I had not seen him wear before. The continuum's response when it came was 3 lines. Submission reviewed, classification, structural methodology audit, protocol outcome, scenario resolution confirmed under expanded framework parameters. Then, framework parameters have been updated. Protocols 1 through 9112 flagged for revision. Then, candidate assessment, auditor classification, no precedent in existing candidate taxonomy, new classification created. The vault opened at EO 600 the following morning. The collegiate's administrative staff were waiting on the other side. I could tell by the way 2 of them stopped walking when they saw me come through with the cohort, and by the fact that one of them was holding a data pad that he immediately face down. Sorvath Khan paused beside me at the threshold. "You knew," he said. "It wasn't a question." "I suspected," I said. "After Protocol 1. I spent the rest of the time making sure." He was quiet for a moment. The amber light of the outer corridor caught the reflective membrane of his eyes. "The collegiate will not know what to do with your file." "They'll figure it out," I said. "They have 342 years of practice with hard problems." I walked through the threshold and found a quiet bench along the far wall of the intake corridor, sat down, and opened the notebook to page 42, the last blank page. I wrote, "Vault debrief complete. Recommend external review of full protocol library under cooperative reconstruction standards. Estimated revision timeline, 18 months. Primary gap, the system was never designed to ask for help." Then I closed the notebook, put it in my jacket pocket, and waited for someone to come tell me where to submit my report. Some systems don't know they're broken. They just keep running the same 912 scenarios, confident in the streak, until someone sits down and reads the methodology notes at the back. That's what the methodology notes are for.